can I go to Costco? Of course. But I want to force myself not to do that stuff because then it makes me reflect on how did this become a thing that isn't taken care of?
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. My next guest is no other than my husband, Dan Martell. Dan is an entrepreneur, angel investor, thought leader, and highly sought after coach in the SaaS or software as a service industry. He founded, scaled, and successfully exited 3 technology companies within a 10-year period. In 2012, he was named Canada's top angel investor, having invested in more than 50 startups such as Intercom, Udemy, and Unbounce. In 2016, he founded the SaaS Academy and grew it to become one of the largest coaching companies in the world. He's also an Ironman athlete, philanthropist, husband to me, and father to our 2 incredible boys. Please welcome the incredible, the man, my husband, this good-looking dude in a blue t-shirt, Dan Warren. Ha! I'm kidding. Dan Martell.
That's awesome. I actually just saw that email you sent to Jacqueline calling us the Wartells. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's funny. I love it.
Yeah, our beautiful friend Jacqueline, who is probably the biggest cheerleader in this community, sent in a wonderful email congratulating him on his book, and I signed off the Wartells.
Boom. New book. It's all over the place.
So Dan's book just came out. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And it's been a labor of love for, gosh, you've been thinking about this for how many years now?
I started on the project 2.5 years ago. I've been teaching the framework. I mean, as you know, probably over a decade. I didn't start calling it the buyback principle till about 8 years ago because I started having to formalize it. But yeah, it was 2.5 years of building an incredible team on the book side. Ron, my book CEO, and Lucinda, my agent, and I mean, everybody from Rich, my designer, to Chris, my copywriter, to my researcher and writer, Paul. I mean, it's just been an awesome team. My editor, Noah, at Penguin Random House. I mean, it's funny. You don't realize behind a book, there's literally, and then my beautiful wife, Renee, and the boys and the support.
Even on the PR team and the marketing side.
So many people.
Portfolio. Every PR marketing update, there's probably 6 or 7 people on the calls. It's impressive what goes into it, right? All to take what's in your brain and put it in a beautiful format into a book.
It's crazy. And what's nuts is in a few months, it'll be exactly 20 years from the moment I read my first business book ever. So I think I read that book and I thought to myself, it's called Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. And, I don't know, Renee, because you've written a book, so you probably had the same realization at some point as you're reading a book, you think, wouldn't it be crazy to write a book and have it out there in the world and impact people the way I know I personally felt? So it's kind of nuts that it took me a while, but almost to the day, 20 years later, I've read 1,500 books and I finally get to share some of my own wisdom into this beautiful package that I'm so proud of. Wow. 1,500 books. Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, I'm going to get straight to the point. Why is it important, especially for entrepreneurs, CEOs, high-performing people? Why is it important for them to buy back their time? And what does the concept even mean?
Yeah. So the buyback principle states that you don't hire people to grow your business. You hire people to buy back your time. And I call it calendar over capacity. And the reason why is because most entrepreneurs end up building businesses that they grow to hate. So what that means is as they grow, they get to this place I call the pain line. And what I've learned a long time ago is that entrepreneurs will not grow into pain, right? Renee, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like if your business could double next month, but your life would go chaotic, most entrepreneurs will sabotage themselves. They don't even realize they're doing it. I mean, it can show up in so many different forms, from dragging their feet on replying to an email, not making a key hire. I've seen entrepreneurs self-medicate themselves into, being hungover and missing an opportunity. I mean, it's crazy the level of sabotage that entrepreneurs can kind of like creatively find themselves. Or they'll just decide that this is too painful and decide to stall. I don't want to grow anymore, right? And the problem with stalling, it's called the 3 S's. So that when they hit the pain line, they either sabotage, they either stall. Challenge with stalling is that if you decide you don't want to grow anymore, your customers still want a better product or service in a year. The market's going to grow whether you like it or not. There's GDP growth. And then the third is your team. Your best people won't stay with you if they run out of future. It's very simple. If I'm on a team and I don't see how my life will get better staying on this team because you've decided you want to go sideways, then people won't stay and you'll lose your best people, which just compounds the death spiral. And the third S is sell, and I get that call probably 2-3 times a week from friends of mine that are like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This is a little harder than it should be. I'm not making any more money and all this stuff. And when I ask them, if those problems you just stated went away, would you sell the business? And they go, well, no. And I go, well, then you just got to restructure the way you grow. Because literally it's a decision they made to just hire in the wrong sequence. And that's why I wrote this book. It's literally a first principle approach to scaling yourself. And you've seen it firsthand, but like I'm the CEO of 2 8-figure companies, SaaS Academy and High Speed Ventures. And like I have an incredible quality of life. I mean, we just got back from Europe. I go snowboarding, I go snow biking, we hang out with the family, we go to Noah's soccer stuff, we have dinner every night. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's absolutely available to people if they're willing to challenge their beliefs and assumptions and change the way they think about finding leverage in their life.
Where do you think is the most common roadblock for people that are at that point where they're like, crap, I either have to go this way to grow my business or not? Like,
I think I can't afford it. Yeah. I would say I can't afford it's the first one. There's like a series of them. And what's fun about the book is I literally, when I did the outline, I wrote all the objections, right? I've been coaching. I've coached over a couple thousand CEOs in the last 5 years through SaaS Academy on this. So buying back your time is like the core foundation of what I teach because it frees up the time to execute the growth playbooks. If you don't have the time, you can't grow the business. And so I made a list of all the objections. The money one's a funny one because they're like, I can't afford to do it. You can't afford not to do it. $1 million companies were not built off $10 tasks. So step one is to figure out the value of your time, right? If you bill out your time at $50, $75, $100 an hour, then the buyback rate, essentially you divide that number by 4, and that's what you should be taking anything off of your plate that you currently do that you can pay somebody else to do for a quarter of that dollar amount. That should just not exist in your world, right? So that's the first one. I can't afford it. My answer is you absolutely can afford it. And if not, you got to figure out how to do it. Like you got to raise your prices, you got to get busier or whatever. Then it's probably where do you find these people, right? Like, I mean, my team, people are like, where did you find this person? It's like, it's the process. And I cover it. It's in chapter 9. It's the talent pipeline. Like there's a methodology. It's a skill. Like I always tell people, we can talk about the buyback loop, but again, you can buy the book to get the frameworks. I'm just more interested in the stories. But like, I get asked all the time, like, where do you find these people? Like good friends of ours, they say like, okay, how did you find a Betty? Or how did you find an Ann? Or how did you find whoever, Johnny, Matt? I have like all these incredible team members. And it's a process because it's a skill. And I think most entrepreneurs don't realize recruiting is a skill that should be learned and developed. And you probably are not really good at it right now because you like take shortcuts. You post on Facebook, you have 2 or 3 people refer their cousins, their brother, their friend from high school, and you hire them like the first person. Yeah. And then you're surprised the person isn't very good. It's like, as because you've talked to Wayne on my people team. I mean, we get 2,000 applications every month for 2 or 3 roles on our team. Like every role has hundreds of applicants for every open role that gets whittled down. Where do you find all these people? They say, well, again, it's a skill. Like you need to understand how to market, how to recruit, how to advertise, how to do test projects, right? And I go through them all in the book, like the very nuanced things. I mean, again, I'm telling you,
I actually got a peek in this, and there was a point in your business that you were hiring like crazy, and you're like, Renee, just help me vet some
I just
people.
needed some help sorting through.
Yeah, because Dan's like, I know my wife who knows me and knows the type of talent we need. So I got to kind of peek under the hood to help out. And the process is exhausting. It's so thorough. But at the end of it, you come out with people that you not only want on your team, but you're okay to be stuck in a airport bar on layover for 6 hours with, because they're just good people. And that's how, like, for us, we have our Betty, and Betty helps us with everything. And she's an incredible, incredible human being and works her butt off.
I just like to take, the luck out of it and just make it a process. And that's what I think anybody that's fascinated to learn how I've been able to, build and exit my software companies, invest in 50 plus companies. I mean, this year I did, I think 3 Ironmans, at least 2, maybe 3, a ton of races, built the company, hung out, traveled the world with you and the boys. Like, it's pretty crazy if people are just looking at our lives. But the only way any of that happens is by me and you, like, analyzing our calendars. Like, I look at my calendar and I do a time and energy audit every 4 months because of the capacity. Anytime I hit the pain line, I do this process called the buyback loop, and I use that to find more time. And I don't separate, as you know, personal or professional, right? Like, it's the same thing. If I notice I'm spending 5-10 hours a week on something that's personal that anybody else could do, then I try to get it off my plate so that I have the time for us to go on date night.
Well, that's the thing. Clarify personal. So what does it mean?
The way I look at it is, and again, there's where we're at today, which most people, I don't want anybody to hear this and dismiss it, okay? Because it can either inspire you or infuriate you. It's kind of like, me talking about some of my success. Some people are inspired by that and other people get infuriated by it because they're like, for whatever reason, they tell themselves stories about like, oh, you think you're better than other people. It's like, no, I don't. I 100% just work and show up and do what I do, and I get to live a certain life. So on the personal side is like, most people should just start with simple stuff like house cleaning. Like, if you are the owner of a business and you are too busy to go to the gym, yet you're busy cleaning your house, you should hire somebody to come in twice a week and clean your house. Like, let's start with that. That'll buy you back 5 or 6 hours. Take that time. You now go to the gym. And if you can't translate going to the gym and feeling better about your health and the energy into showing up better as a person on your team, that's on you. But all I know is that when I go work out, I have more energy, I have more focus, I am more creative, I feel more resourceful, I am able to communicate clear. And that ROI of that is worth way more than cleaning the floor or running around the house doing stuff. So, I mean, that's an easy one. Another area is just like lawn maintenance. I think a lot of people, my dad, Fit Vic, he's always like, I like mowing on my own lawn. I'm like, Dad, if you like mowing it so much, why don't you do the neighbors? He's like, well, I don't like to do it that much. It's like, I know. So you don't like, I don't like doing stuff. If you don't want to do it for free to do it for your neighbors, then you shouldn't do it, because like that's time you could go spend on other things. Like, to me, I want to do one of two things. And Renee, I feel like we talk about this all the time, so I apologize, but like, it's for your audience. I want to either work on things only I can do, right? Only I can be on this podcast, showing off my blue shirt. It matches my cover. I actually went and changed my shirt just for that. And I'm the only person that can like go on date nights with my wife, right? Or like have dinner with my kids. Like, I am their father. I am your husband. Mm-hmm. I am my buddy's friends. Like, I show up for that. Anything that doesn't fit in there, I don't do.
Very clear. Now, the thing that keeps coming up for me is time. So there's probably people thinking, okay, I do have the resources to be able to outsource all this stuff, but all I can think about is how much time it's going to take to not only find the person, as we talked about, but then training them and then managing them, and that whatever, like adding new tasks to their plate. How does someone go about that? You talk about this in your book, right? There's this thing called the 5 time assassins, which probably relates to this question. But tell us about this, the 5 time assassins.
Yeah, most people are their own worst culprit when it comes to like eating into their time. And I'm not going to go through all 5, but one example is the self-medicator, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to be that. I mean, I talk about it in the book where when I was building my business and something good happened, not even bad, good things happened to me, I would go out and just like overeat or drink too much and then wake up the next morning feeling hungover and tired and bloated. And then would you get my best work? No. Would I show up and like good for anybody? No.
Like cranky and angry and dismissive and
all of
short
that.
And foggy brain. Yeah.
All of it. And it's funny how like they don't realize like that shows up in your work. And like there's these time assassins that people, the micromanager, right? You talked about like, well, if I hire this person, how do I manage them, et cetera? It's you have to change your beliefs. I mean, at the end of the day, it's skills, belief, and character traits. That's the success ladder. Okay. So you have like on the left side of the ladder, that builds the left side, it's the skills. Do you have the skills to grow? The right side is the beliefs of the world, how it works. And then you have your character traits. People that are micromanagers will frustrate these people. Like you see me work with my team. I don't tell them how to do their job. I'm just very clear about the outcome I want to achieve. And then we negotiate on what we're going to measure. And then from that measurement that they measure, we negotiate their performance based on the number. So again, that's a skill that you have to develop to be able to work with somebody else. And I think that's what would really fascinate people is in the exact same scenario, right? How I hire and train people, how I do my one-on-ones, how I communicate with people. I think like if they were looking at the way I do it versus the way they do it, it's completely different. Most people do what's called transactional management. They tell people what to do. They check that it got done. They tell them what to do next. Okay. What I do is I call it transformational leadership. I start with the outcome. So for example, Betty, who's our house manager, she's the CEO of everything that we own personally. You've heard me say that to Betty, right?
Yeah.
So if she hears that and she's like, well, I know what a CEO is. I know all the stuff that Dan and Renee manage and own. I'm responsible for that. And then I say to them, everything. And they're like, what is that? Let me describe it. Insurance, registration, maintenance, cleanliness, location, storage, whatever. Like you're the CEO of it. It's not mine anymore. I gave it to you to be responsible for. That's the outcome side. Then we measure, we set budgets and timing and schedules and all this stuff. And then they communicate back to me, as in Betty tells me like, hey, the boat's in storage from this date to this date, your car's in storage here, and the house needs this, and we paid the insurance. And like, I don't tell her what to do. She's telling me what she's doing. And as long as we're clear on the outcomes, then it doesn't require a lot of training, right? Like it's so fascinating. Like
it's a great perspective of the how versus the why, right? A lot of managers are like, this is how you do it, but there's no why. It's like, here's the outcome. I
only talk about
and
the
here's
outcome.
The why, right? Because the why is like, I don't have the time to do all this stuff. And quite frankly, it's not the best use of my time.
But see, I will say that is, I'm a particular about language, as you know. That language is actually potentially dangerous to people to say it that way. And I get why you said it and you just said it because it's like, but say what you just said again. I don't
have time
to do it.
It's not the best use of my time.
Yeah, I don't say it. I say I choose not to do that. And I'd rather have support. And I'm then going to go invest in these other activities. Mm-hmm. And language matters because I think when you say like, what stops people from doing this, Renee? Guilt is a big one.
Oh my gosh. I was just going to say that. As a mother.
Yes. Guilt is a big one.
Culturally indoctrinated to
talk about that one.
Everything. I still have it today. So Betty does a lot for us. And this is an example. We like to use her because she's just a perfect example for this. In that she picks the boys up from school. She helps them like with their lunches and does the laundry, does everything around the house. And there are days that we start work, both you and I, fairly early on, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning is when our days begin. And so there's a whole chunk of this day that I'm working, right? I'm doing this stuff for my business, parenting, whatever it is. But then come 3 p.m., I'm a little bit tired and there's no creative juice left in me. And quite frankly, there's no point in me working because it's just, I'm not really productive. But this is when she's in her peak of like getting the supper ready and all this stuff. And I sit there and I know it's taken years for me to learn this, to not go and offer help, right? Like, how can I help? Because, well, I don't want to say that it's not my job, but there's so much of me that was inherited that I feel like, oh my gosh, I should be cooking for my kids. I should be helping with the lunches. The alternative is making puzzles with Noah, playing board games with Max, playing hockey downstairs, going in the hot tub,
or taking a bath and recharging.
Yeah. It's like, I get that time back.
But this is why words matter and beliefs matter. When those moments happen, and it happened yesterday, I think I was done my last call at 3:30 and I wanted to lay on the couch and do nothing. I literally turned the fireplace on and I'm laying on the couch in front of her because she's in the kitchen. And in my mind, all I think to myself is, I'm so grateful to have her here to support me so that I can recharge and then I can be with the kids. And that we've created a life and a priority and a belief systems where we are willing to invest and create employment, right? Because I'm pretty sure she enjoys, and people that work on our teams enjoy working with us. Mm-hmm. And those are decisions. This is what's interesting is anytime somebody decides to do something instead of hiring somebody to do it for them, mow their lawn, clean their house, take care of their stuff, whatever, they're literally not allowing employment to exist. Like, it's kind of selfish. I tell this to my clients all the time. It's like, you are being selfish. There is somebody out there that would love, like Sarah, who, Sarah that cleans our house.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Sarah, and I'm pretty sure she really appreciates working for us. And if we didn't get over our beliefs, guilt, fear, am I worth it? Can I afford all these things that people stop themselves from doing? Sarah wouldn't be part of our lives. And I think that would not be great. Right. Yeah. So to me, that's like, now I also don't tell people to like buy back your time and lay on a couch either. Like, just watch Netflix. You buy back your time to trade it into higher value activities that support your work and or your personal life. And it's just a reframe of the belief. But like, what's crazy, Renee, is so many people, and we know them, they're friends of ours, that have the opportunity to upgrade their quality of their life, to reduce the friction, to reduce the fights. Honestly, a lot of times they're fighting because I thought you were going to do this and you forgot to buy this and this didn't happen. It's like, look, how about we both just get somebody in our world and we ask them to own it, and then we can work through that person to do all the stuff that we keep fighting about. And then we can spend more time going on walks in the woods and date nights and hitting the gym or CrossFit. Like, I just think it's fascinating to me, even in our kind of like peer group, that there's still big opportunities for friends of ours that see us do this that are still reluctant.
I know there's people.
So I'm hoping
a lot of
the
people
book helps.
Are so interested. And the question is, how did you find a Betty? And there's a lot of jokes about how we need to create this program on how to find your Betty. And the reality is a lot of these people, they're questioning it, but they don't take action. They're hesitant. Like, they're intrigued by it and they don't want to do the work to get the outcome. Right?
They don't want to develop the skill.
No,
there's a skill. It's called recruiting, and people just don't like. But here's the funny part, Renee. It's probably the same thing that's stopping them from growing their business.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
But here's the thing too, is what I wanted to say is, in all of this too, is the recruiting is important. You also have a lot of trust and faith in the people that you're managing or delegating tasks to. And I've seen it
It's
firsthand.
A belief set. It's a belief set.
I've seen it where you're just like, here's the outcome of what I expect. Everything you need is over here. Now go do the work. Meanwhile, I'm watching this unfold thinking, oh gosh, are they going to screw up? Do they even know where this other thing is? Do they even know how he likes it? Like, where do they go to find this information? Maybe I should go lean in and help them.
But here's the belief. This is, again, there's a whole bunch of reasons why people won't do this. One of my beliefs is 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome. So I know, and I'm honest with myself, if I ask somebody else to do something, 8 out of 10 times it'll be good. 2 out of those 10 times will not meet the mark. So there's waste there. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. You've seen it happen so many times where somebody orders the wrong thing, or this shows up, or it's not what you needed, and I'm just like, cool. Like, I didn't do it. Like, think about people like my executive assistant or our house manager. These people are literally buying back 40 hours each of my time. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. If they weren't doing it, Renee, you or I would have to do it. They're working full time. So all of a sudden now, I am just in so much gratitude because I have these people supporting me so that I can focus on doing stuff that I love to do. And what's fun for me, it's like, sometimes I'll grab like Betty and I'll be like, hey, come on this session and say hi to my clients, right? Because they're always like wondering if you're like snuffleupagus. And she gets nervous and she's like, doesn't want, and she's like, you do that. I don't like doing that. And so like, that's the cool part for me is I truly know that what I do really well. And what they do incredibly well. Like these people, them, Renee, my team, the things that I work at, they play at. Like they're just naturally gifted. It's just their happy place. And I love that. And I think that's where some people have never hired anybody where that was the case. Where like, remember Sandy Romo? Do you remember Sandy, my bookkeeper? Yeah. Like she loved managing spreadsheets and reconciling bank accounts. And like I worked with her for over a decade in like my early days of entrepreneurship. Yeah. And like when you called her, she was always happy. How you doing? And it was just like awesome. But like if I was doing that work, I'd be like, I don't want to do this. And like yet again, people don't follow the buyback principle and they build these businesses that they grow to hate because they keep all this weird stuff on their plate, like managing, publishing social media posts, and like they'll spend hours at doing this stuff that it's like, does that make you money? It's like, no, you need to be the person that produces the content. The thing that makes you money is chatting with people. How about you don't spend 4 hours publishing social media? Instead, you spend 4 hours opening up chats with everybody that follows you on Instagram and try to move relationships forward. That'll have a 10 times ROI on your time than publishing on social that you can pay somebody else to do. Again, people don't value their time. And even if they valued it, they haven't spent the time to learn the skill to figure out how to fill it back up, right? Like if you gave them a full day back, they would be like, what do I do with it? Like, I don't trust myself. Like, and that's
because
just,
boredom is
these are the
unproductive,
challenges.
right?
Yeah. I'd rather just process email and stay busy because at least I feel like I'm being productive. Yeah. But they've never stopped and said like, let me analyze my activities. That's why in the book, I talk about the buyback loop, and it's the first part is an audit. It's a time and energy audit. It'll show you 100% with clarity what are the activities you actually do that move the needle and where all the noise is. And then it's up to you.
I feel like I need to do that because sometimes there's like days where you're like, how was your day? What did you work on today? And I'm like, my gosh, I was so busy, but I actually don't even know what I did today. But here's the thing. So it's like, I know what I did, but embarrassingly don't even want to tell you the tasks that I did because I know they weren't needle moving activities.
Yeah. Well, the way I do it to keep it simple is I color code my calendar on the type of work I'm doing. So I can look on a weekly calendar and know if I did the things that move the needle.
Interesting.
So that's a little trick that some people, again, you need to do it. So some people are like, whoa, that's so good. It's like, now do it, right? Like, it's like you got to do a time and energy on it.
Implement. Yeah.
Totally. It's like, but I get it. Some people need to be motivated. So I'm going to just keep sharing the message and showing them the lifestyle and showing them how it could work. And hopefully someday, many of our friends will someday invest in an executive. I mean, some of them don't even have an executive assistant. They're still managing their own time and calendar and their travel. Some of these people, we travel with them and literally they spend 6-7 hours managing travel problems, and I'm just like, this is bananas. Like you run these are very successful entrepreneurs, multiple 7-figure income earners, and yet they still book their own flights and try to rush in when the thing and trade their points to get the status to do that. And I'm just like, I only do one
I'm
or two
the worst
things.
at booking flights. I remember one time years ago, I was going to Toronto just for like 24 hours for some meeting when I was running my agency. And I sent you the calendar invite from when I was leaving and coming back. And you came and you knocked on my office door. You're like, is there something I don't know? Am I missing something? Like, why? And you go, why are you in Toronto for a month? I meant to book it 24 hours, but it ended up being like 24 days. That was a big mistake. And it's like, because I'm not good at that stuff. The little details, I miss that all the time. But then there's people like Larry, who's our travel guy, who picks up on that stuff because looking at those numbers and the stuff on screen is just second nature for them.
He plays. When you want to talk about somebody, I won't even tell you guys his last name because I'm scared you guys will get him so busy. I mean, Larry plays at a level when it comes to managing travel and the travel experience. Like he nerds out passionately about this. I mean, I call him ground control Because for fun, I've been with Max or Noah or friends of mine and I'm traveling and I'm just like, Larry, tell me about my plane. And he comes back with this paragraph of like, well, it's actually this plane and it just came into commission 2 years ago and it's got this cool feature and this thing. And, and he's like, you're going to land here and they actually got this other plane. Be sure to go check out gate this. And I'm just like,
or he's like, it shows you a map. He's like, you're landing at gate C12 and then you have to get to D13 and you have 45 minutes and there's a lounge on the way if you want to grab a snack. And it's kind of
it's next level. It's next level.
Wow. Right. And
but it allows us to, even with LAX, remember that time that we had the concierge help us out at LAX and like bring us through security? And so like people don't realize there's ways on very simple levels to start buybacking your time. Increasing the experience, buying back your time and creating an experience that just makes things enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why like I left it for the last chapter, the buyback lifestyle. But I really want, this is the movement I'm trying to create, Renee, as you know. I just want entrepreneurs to create more, right? I just knew that like when I was young and building companies, I was a workaholic. I was working 120 hours a week. That's all I knew. I had one gear and it was try to be as productive as I can. Had a lot of people reporting to me. I didn't know any better about leadership. I didn't know how to manage my time. There was no way I would give myself, I was doing my laundry. I was like literally, like doing calls.
How do you work 120 hours a week? No, you mean like 80 hours a week.
No, 100.
Days.
It was 16 hours a day. 16 times 7 is 100.
When did you sleep?
Well, there's 24 hours. Yeah, I sleep 6 hours a night. 6 hours.
Oh my God. Wow.
42. Yeah. Yeah. It was literally just, there was no not working. Talk to Nick. Nick. I went to his birthday party.
To parties.
His laptop. Yeah. And I was like, and I thought I was the best friend in the world because I'm so busy, but I'm here at his birthday anyway. And he should thank me. And turns out he thought I was a ding dong and he was right.
Probably still thinks you're a ding dong.
I probably earned a little bit of credit back. Yeah. He definitely loves me. But that's like, to me, I just want entrepreneurs to create more. I want them to like not hate the work they do because they've decided to spend their money in different ways. It doesn't matter if you buy a new car instead of hiring an executive assistant or you upgrade your house instead of like, I just see people make these financial decisions. It's like, you can buy back 30 hours of your week or you can get a new car. And the crazy part is if you buy back 30 hours a week and you take 15 of those hours and you go work on higher caliber stuff, you'll make 2-3 cars in a year. Like you'll literally triple your money so that you can buy 3 of those in 12 months or in 4 months. And that's the thing. It's a mathematical equation. You can't build a 10 million a year company on $10 tasks. You just can't. It's like impossible. So then really it's just like, what's the least amount of money I can spend to buy back my time, to trade it up, to do that again, to trade it up, to do it again, till you get to the point where your income per hour is really incredible. Mm-hmm. Like there's no other way to do it.
So the listeners are mostly female entrepreneurs, mothers. So there's a lot of this is probably pushing a lot of bruises on these women's ego. Also, just what they're expected of them. In the book, what are some core nuggets that would be super helpful to these women that are kind of facing this? Oh, I want to do this, but so-and-so might not agree with me. Or what would my mother think? Or what would my father think? What advice would you give them?
I think like you would probably have the best advice for them because I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like you had to personally go through this. I've never had challenges worrying about what my dad thought about me hiring people to help me in my life. Like when we had a chef in Moncton and making our meal prep or like hiring, a night nanny to help with our, like I just personally I had zero guilt, but I know you did. Oh, yeah. So it's like, I just want people to know that it is normal. It will happen, but that is your opportunity. That's the ceiling, right? Like at the end of the day, if you want more, the only question to ask is, who do I need to become? Mm-hmm. Expecting your mom, your dad, your mother-in-law, your friend, your neighbor to change their reality and perspective to adapt to you is a futile proposition. Like you're going to be holding your breath and you're going to not, it's never going to work. Yeah. You need to upgrade your beliefs. And like, that's where, as you know, Renee, I've coached some incredibly strong and successful women CEOs. And this is the work I've had to do with them, which is we write down all the beliefs they have when they consider these strategies. Like we write them down, we put them on paper. And then I work and say, well, if you were giving somebody else advice to overcome that belief, what would you tell them? So I literally make them coach themselves by putting it out on paper. And one at a time, it's like, I don't want my mom to think that I'm too busy. Perfect. What would you tell somebody that was scared to do that and not be willing to have somebody come in and help clean their house? Well, I would tell them their times, and I literally they write it down, and then we work through it and we just say, look, let's just take a little step. Let's just do one thing. Let's do it for 2 weeks. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it very rarely just start small.
I think that's the best advice is the small things. So maybe you get, like when we started with the cleaning lady, we had this woman that she came in once every 2 weeks. And then over the course of months, it was like once a week.
When you say that out loud, I'm like, that's not enough.
I know, right? But we had a smaller house. And then I remember when my mindset changed, I was like, Dan, we need to get Shannon in twice a week. You're like, why? I'm like, this is why. You're like, done deal. And then all we did was we got more hours and we divided it into 2 days.
And you gave her more stuff to do. I mean, this is the other thing is people, I remember one of my friends, he was frustrated because his wife spent half a day cleaning their cars every week. I'm like, why don't you just get the cleaning lady to clean your cars? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
You got a cleaning lady. Yep. Pay them to clean your cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, dude, this person cleans their own car. This person owns a car and they clean their own car and they clean your house. Do you realize how ridiculous it's funny when people say, how do you find a Betty? I found somebody that was responsible and lived a life and could manage her own life. And I just asked her to manage my stuff. It's the exact same thing.
Or it's like, when was the last time you stepped into a grocery store? Do you even know what it looks like on the inside?
Filled up a car with gas. I don't want to.
No.
Into Costco. I refuse. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I went
You've seen me refuse. I won't do it out of principle because if I have to do it, then I feel like I've broken my own rule. I can't write a book called Buy Back Your Time and then go spend 4 hours running errands. I don't want to do that. I'd rather go hang out with the boys or call my friends and do stuff.
Yeah, and it's like going back to having the faith and the trust in the person's ability to do the job too. Because the idea of, here's an example, is because Betty is the CEO of our stuff, she even gets to drive your McLaren to get it clean, service, stored. So she drives. That's absurd.
She doesn't like to, I will tell you.
Oh, I know that. I know.
I know.
However, the thought of that, of somebody having a supercar, the only person that I've ever known to ever drive a supercar is people that own it, or maybe a buddy that's really into it. But to let somebody like a Betty do it, I'm just like, wow, it's impressive. And I get it, right? It's just the car. It's insured, and it's
a belief. It's a belief.
100%.
It's literally people need to learn. And here's what's beautiful about this, Renee, is if you can learn to do it in your home, it'll show up in your work and you'll in the ceiling gets lifted, right? Like some people, these people, I'm not going to call them out, but I have a friend. Yeah, they are listening, and I hope they know it's them. Because I literally, when I wrote the book, I wrote down 10 people's names.
Yeah,
literally my friends that I love. That I was like, I got to write the book for them.
I'm pretty sure there's examples of me in here too, but I get it. So what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm not confirming or denying that at all.
I'll know.
There's a buddy of ours, and he got mad at us because we were texting him at 5 a.m. about this trip we were working on. And he's like, why are you guys texting me at 5 a.m? And we're like, dude, just put your phone on silent. He's like, I can't, because then I won't get the notification of the alarm at my shop. And we're like, why do you get the call if there's an alarm that goes off at your shop? And he's like, because that's all I need to know if there's an alarm. And I'm like, I have an alarm on my house. I don't think my phone rings. The police, it rings the police. And in that moment, I just realized here's a guy, successful multimillionaire, and has not figured out a way for him not to be the only person that can deal if somebody's breaking into his shop.
What I know, my perspective in some of this is yes, that person knows they can outsource it, but also there's a lot of people that wouldn't even think of that as an option. They wouldn't even.
That's what I'm saying is they don't even know.
One example for us is when we got a night nanny when Noah was a newborn, and you and I were both at the peak of running our businesses, and we needed sleep. There was no oh, well, I don't work, so I'll just take the fall. It was we both need our sleep.
No. Yeah, it was a bad health decision.
Dan's there's this lady that can come in and bottle feed the baby in the middle of the night. That means you can sleep. And all I could think about was, cool idea, but that's not for us. Who am I to deserve this? I'm not enough to deserve this. And we finally did it one night. And I was like, best thing ever. When can you come back?
Winning life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you just got to do it. So like,
this is why it's a forcing function. Like, can I go to Costco? Of course. But I want to force myself not to do that stuff, because then it makes me reflect on how did this become a thing that isn't taken care of, right? So like, how did it end up on my to-do list? Is this something I could ask? And it's funny because then like, if I just say, well, I don't want to do that, then okay, my executive assistant has to order from Costco and they deliver it to my house. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that the first thing? Why was it even a thing I wrote down on my list?
People just do things the way they've always been done, and they're not curious about how there's other ways of doing stuff.
Perfect. That's why
even
I say
when it comes to like
that'll be your ceiling.
Building a house, booking air travel, whatever it is. Like there's different ways, there's more productive, efficient ways of doing things, but we never question it because it's always the way it's been done. Like my friend Kira, she's coming over on Christmas Day and she's like, are you cooking a turkey? I'm like, I've never cooked a turkey in my life. Well, what do you mean? I go, I don't like to cook. That's a waste of time. You can come over and cook a turkey in my kitchen though. But what we've done is we have this little place down the street called Home Away or whatever it's called, where we pre-order.
You don't know, Renee. You don't know because Betty deals with it. You don't know.
Betty asked me, what do you want? And then I just tick the box. We pick up the turkey and they do a better job than I would. But I never questioned it because in my household, it was always like, well, my mom always cooked these beautiful meals. So I just assumed that's what I was supposed to do too. But when I've said, I don't like doing this, and I admitted to the hating of the cooking of everything, then it's like, then solve the problem and you find somebody to do it for you. So I never have to cook a turkey. I don't even care to learn how to cook one. No, like don't. Okay. So any last key takeaways from the book? Stuff that
Lots of stuff.
What's the stuff you really love about this book?
Oh, I think the perfect week design, page 141 is like, if you don't have a rhythm for that, I have a whole chapter on how to work with an executive assistant. And I even get into like the tools I use, the rhythms for the meetings, and most importantly, the folder structure. Look at this. Renee, I don't think you've seen all of it, but it's got a whole folder structure for how to work with your executive assistant. I talk about the 10X vision map because I think most people need clarity about like what their life looks like. And then I share how we use the preloaded year, right, Renee? Preloaded year. I'll show it. Everybody, I don't know if this is a video podcast, but if you're not watching the video podcast, go to buybackyourtime.com. But this is our let me show 2021. I don't want to show any personal information.
So this is what Dan is showing is a calendar for the entire year. So it's all 12 months in one piece of paper. And
it's right here.
Use this for us, for coaching clients, so that he can see where his time is dedicated and where there's.
I look at, I literally, Renee and we have like the Renee only stuff, the family stuff, the Renee and Dan stuff, the boys trips, and my business stuff. And it's all there. We plan in 2023, 2024. And then that way, because it's color coded, you and I can see like how much family trips are we doing. Mm-hmm. In this quarter, it's like you've got your mountain bike trip and a snowboarding trip or snow biking trip. Like, when are we hanging? Oh, we've got March in Cabo. You know what I mean? Like,
well, what I love about this, it's like a game of Plinko. I love using that example. But we look at the year and we're like, what are the activities? So the activities are like your events or like Tony Robbins or the stuff or these places that we're invited. We're like, yes, those are like absolute put in pen. And then we plunk those things onto the calendar. And now there's like, okay, there's space, right? So then if like Todd was like, hey, Dan, I want to go speak at this event. Will you come with me? Then you'd be like, yeah, 1 second. Yeah, cool. I have time. If there's travel time, absolutely. Let's lock it in. It's right there. There's no thinking. And
I also know if he's like, you and Renee should come. And I look and I go, no, because Renee and I just got back from this place and I know she doesn't like traveling that much. So it's like even understanding, that's why I call it energy management, not time management. Mm-hmm. I use that 1-page template to create a sense of energy flows throughout the year.
I like that. Yeah.
And then, that's just like literally we're talking about 10% of the stuff I cover in the book because it's full of research. Like that's a big thing.
What I love about this like preloaded year too is like you look at it and it's like you put the FES stuff and the other stuff. Then you look at your goals for the year and you're like, oh crap, I have one goal that's like, I want to compete at a CrossFit competition and I haven't signed up for anything. Where is there something at these dates in these weekends, right? So that you can make it happen. Otherwise, you would never, if you don't.
That's the only way I did 3 Ironmans. There's like no way. I literally had to look at this and go like, okay, I have an event here. I got this there. Okay, I got to travel with my bike. I got to do a training camp here. Like you can literally squeeze so much more into your year. And I know some people listen to this, Renee, and they're like, that sounds crazy. Like Garrett, who roasted me, our buddy Garrett Gunderson. He's like, buy back your time. Why would I buy back my time to do Ironman? Screw that. And, he like had this whole bit he did on me as a comedian. But the truth is I'm able to, again, run 2 companies, do the Ironman stuff, hopefully be a great husband for my wife, show up for my kids.
You have a 10 out of 10 this week. I'm sure you're crushing it on the husband front.
I've got one direction to go when it's up, and that's all I do.
But you know what I love about this too is that, and like just from like a partnership marriage perspective, is that you and I make it we're intentional about being on the same page about us, about stuff that's running the house, about the kids, about our businesses too.
But it's by design.
100%. And it's like I don't have to conquer the same mountain that you're conquering because I have no interest in doing an Ironman. There's none at all. But
you said that once about 75 hard though, and you ended up doing it.
Yeah, but I will never.
And I think you said that once about CrossFit competitions, and then you did it again.
Okay, but I'm being very serious. I don't like swimming.
This time.
And I don't like biking.
Time. Okay, this time you're not doing it.
Dan, do I like being wet?
I get it, but you've also grown every year. So
I am doing a Spartan race this summer.
There you go.
Anyways, all this to say is I know when you get this capacity in your calendar, you can actually do more things that really push you outside your comfort zone because it allows you to set that intention, to create the space to train, whatever it is, to go and do this stuff, whether it's something physical or drumming or whatever. And you get that capacity back to focus on these things. And it's like CrossFit's meditation for me. And I know parts of training for an Ironman was the same for you, right? So yes,
1,000%.
Crazy that you did that. Oh my gosh, but it's incredible. And now you have a story to share. So you have some really cool stuff coming up, this book, but tell us about where people can go to buy it online.
Well, first off, I just want to acknowledge you, babes. So everybody can go get the book at Amazon. My biggest ask is please leave a review. If I've ever done anything for you ever and you love the book, please leave a review. That's going to help with the movement I'm trying to create more than anything. But I do have a dedication to my beautiful wife in the book, to Renee. It's literally right there, first pages. To Max and Noah, you are my everything. I mean that. Like this is, like the amount of support, leaving to go work with my writers and editors and copywriters. And when we're in Utah, waking up for 2 hours, reviewing every chapter, when we're in Cabo on the beach, like just the amount of effort that I had to put into the book to produce the kind of thing I could be so proud of. And then having your help with the PR and just absolutely crushing it. I just want to thank you for that. And just know like, this is just the beginning. I think that as I get more success stories from people that read the book and they teach me more stuff, like I'm just going to put it all back out there on my social media channels and just turn this into a groundswell of language in the entrepreneurial community. Like I really want buying back your time to be as synonymous as like a growth engine or anything else. It's like, I think that it'll be just how people build companies in the future. And I would just love to be the spark at the beginning to just like help it get there.
Cool. So people can go to buybackyourtime.com or see you online, Dan Martell, 2 L's in Martell.
.com.
Well, babe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And hope to meet you guys all in person soon.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time. The best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.